plasma membrane. What's going to determine whether things can go in and out of the cell? So this is determine function, and I also like to think of this as determining what's moving in and out of a cell. The first thing is the molecular size. So we talked about molecules having more collisions when they're smaller, and we talked about activation energy. But now when we're talking about going across a wall, what's easier to do? If I have this tunnel, and on one side is the outside of the cell, and one side is the inside of the cell, who's going to have an easier time doing that? A 2-year-old who weighs 5 pounds, can he go through this tunnel? This isn't a cell anymore, this is now a tunnel. Can he go through this tunnel easily, or can the 6'5", 350-pound muscle guy, we'll give him some muscles on his legs too, who's going to fit there easier? Obviously the smaller guy. So the whole point with molecular size, smaller things can go through the plasma membrane easier. And just think if you've ever seen someone really, really small or someone really, really thin literally fit through a crack in the fence and you're like, how the heck did you do that? Just think, smaller things have an easier time getting through these tough spaces. So, size matters. Small things can pass through a membrane more easily than the big things. There is an upper size to what can move across without needing assistance to move in. So molecular size. Next we have solubility. We already discussed this. We said fat soluble is a go in terms of passing through a plasma membrane. So fat soluble is a check, and water soluble, you can also say nonpolar versus water soluble. This cannot pass it through easily, and these are polar molecules. Okay, and if we go a step further from polarity, which is an uneven distribution of charges like water, HH, partial positive, partial negative. This was in the videos before as well. So this is a polar molecule because we have an uneven distribution of electrons versus an ionic molecule like sodium chloride, which becomes an ion. It gains or loses electrons completely when you put them in solution. And so what this is basically moving based on polarity across the plasma membrane. This is moving based on charge. So, if you guys remember, opposites attract. So if a molecule has a similar charge as the plasma membrane, it's going to be repelled. Okay, if it has the opposite charge of the plasma membrane, it will pass through more easily because opposites attract. If you remember resting membrane potential, we know that there's this difference in electricity on the inside and the outside of the cell, so this plasma membrane has this charge to it. Okay, other factors that determine the function of the plasma membrane. We need to ask ourselves, well, does it have those integral proteins? Does it have those channel proteins that we talked about that might allow different kinds of molecules that wouldn't otherwise get through the plasma membrane, and it will allow them into that cell? So we need to ask ourselves, are there carrier molecules? Are there integral proteins that will allow us to pass through things through them? You might see on the test, you might see the word carrier protein, you might see channel protein, you might see integral protein. We need to get used to interchanging these words. Alright, I'm going to finish up with that video. This will be it, and then next we're going to move into active and passive transport.